You are listening to Zen and the Art of Triathlon.
Well, hey there, all you freaks and geeks, and welcome to another great episode of Zen and the Art of Triathlon, the podcast where we go long on endurance and learn a lot about ourselves along the way. All right, this is our first episode of the pandemic lockdown. And you can tell it's a lockdown because Kai, my 15-year-old son, is getting a haircut here at the house from his girlfriend that she was over here for dinner, and just sporadic, spur of the moment, decided to start trying to give him a haircut. So Emily, my wife, and his girlfriend are around him, and they have never cut hair before. And I've cut hair, but it's I cut hair mostly with clippers because it was military school. I went to a Marine Corps military school, and I was in a Navy Marine Corps ROTC unit my freshman year in college. And that was, Marine Corps haircuts are pretty simple. It's almost to the scalp, and then just a little bit more, like a one guard on the side and two on top. But still, you got to get it right because you're being inspected all the time. But anyway, that's how it's going around here. Let's see, on this episode, we're going to talk a lot about indoor training and some crazy stuff that people are pulling off around here. And Ironman has done some virtual training, virtual competitions, and then some additions to Zwift. Let's see, I did the Ironman thing, the half Ironman over the weekend. It was really a duathlon. Instead of the swim, they do a 5K run, and I did all that. That was kind of fun. That got me out running a half marathon for the first time in a little while. And the weekend or two before that, I was going to do a Gran Fondo bike ride, which was 105 miles. And I've been training all winter for it and was really excited to do it. And it got canceled, and I was pretty bummed, but definitely understanding with everything that's going on. So I swam in our very small backyard pool for an hour. I was on swim team growing up, and I was a captain of a really good high school varsity swim team. And I had some scholarships, or one scholarship, to swim in college, but I never took it. And I was already burned out because I'd been swimming since I was 9 years old competitively. And the thing I did was I swam an hour tethered in the backyard in the pool, and then biked 112 miles on the trainer. And so that was, just over 5 hours, and I did it on Zwift, which is actually a lot of fun. And I'm going to talk more about that. Some guy biked 24 hours on Zwift. I'll tell you about that. And he compared it to a 24-hour outdoor ride, and said it was actually harder to do the indoor, which I thought was kind of interesting. And we'll talk about that. And I have some other random things. Miranda Carfrey's husband Tim O'Donnell knocked the power cord to the trainer out of the wall, and that's actually in the news because she called him an idiot or a dummy or something like that. But it doesn't really matter. This is all kind of in good fun. And oh yeah, I forgot. I also have some tips on how to train at home and how to keep your life kind of in some sort of a semblance of reality and arrangement of getting things done at home. And then also, let's see, some news on Lionel Sanders pulled off two things which were absolutely crazy. Professional triathlete Lionel Sanders. If you don't know about him, then you are not keeping up with the real world, which is something we kind of need to do right now. All right, let's see. What happened was, let's talk about the Ironman Virtual Racing thing, because that's something that more people probably know about and did something with. Ironman announced that there would be virtual reality racing, quote unquote, coming up pretty soon when the whole pandemic lockdown started happening. And it really started happening. A lot of people, follow basketball, and people noticed that first, the NBA. But I was watching a lot of Spring Classics racing, and was it Paris-Nice bike race, which is a stage race from Paris to Nice. They kept racing, like stage 4, stage 5, they kept going. And even though a team or two had abandoned the race, and of course or was it Italy? I don't remember what the race was, because now, time just, I don't even know what day it is anymore. I've been sent home to work. I know people that have been furloughed, which thank God, at least they haven't been let go 100%. I know furloughed, you're not getting paid, but at least your job is still there, because this should pass through. But man, this is going to be rough. Okay, anyway, I don't want to be, you don't listen to this show to get all down and Debbie Downer on things. So let's keep it upbeat. The Ironman got sold back to another company. I forgot who they sold it to, but the Chinese company, Wanda, sold it, which was kind of interesting. And my belief is companies are always the best when they're privately owned. When things are owned by stockholders, they don't care about anything except for profit. They kind of care, but they really don't. They say they care, but they really don't.
Can you come help do the thing with the...
Wait, here comes Emily. We're going to talk about Kai's haircut. How's it going in there?
It's going. This will be a story for times to come. I need you to come.
I thought that y'all kind of knew how to cut hair. Y'all don't know how to cut hair at all.
No. Why would I know how to do that? I don't ever... I used to cut my bangs.
Because y'all are girls.
Yeah, but we go get our hair cut.
Yeah.
Nobody cuts.
Like,
no,
Kylie didn't even know how to hold the scissors to cut the hair.
Right. That is a profession. I didn't go to hair school.
Okay.
Anyway, can you come help?
Okay, I'll be right back. Hold on. I got to go help. I did the thing where I did the clippers that were electric and they buzzed, and then I had another set of clippers that were not plugged in and have no power, and I hit him in the back of the neck in his hair with the ones that weren't running, but I made the sound with the other ones, so Kai thought I was cutting holes in the back of his head, like patches, and he jumped out of the chair, and it's a prank. It's kind of funny. Anyway, I'll be right back. Hold on. Oh my God, I think it looks good on one side and not the other. It's like butchered on one side, a little too short, like a bowl cut on one side. So the problem is you got to keep going up. And he's already saying no, like nobody can touch his hair now. Okay, I forgot something else. Also, I have some coaching spots open. I do full online custom triathlon coaching. I've been doing triathlons competitively since 2002. I coach through Training Peaks, and I've been professionally certified. And I also have done, I think, like 15 or 16 Ironmans, 10 of them self-supported. So all this stuff about working out from home is right up my alley. And other crazy things that I've done is obviously with the swimming background. Oh, I swam 22 miles across Lake Tahoe, which is like swimming the English Channel. It's 1 mile longer, and it's at 6,000 feet elevation, but at least it's freshwater, so there's no sharks. Done that, and I've done a 100-mile trail run race, a bunch of 50-milers trail run race, and I missed Worlds and half Ironmans by one slot in the 40 to 44 age group, which is extremely difficult to get there. And yeah, so I've got the full range of triathlon coaching credentials, and I've been doing it for a very, very long time. And when I coach, all you have to do is work out and upload. Well, now it syncs automatically, right? So your stuff syncs right up to Training Peaks, which is the professional platform. I've been trained and have been using Training Peaks all the way up to coaching myself and through an Ultraman and other people, plenty of Ironmans, really successful results, and using all the metrics and everything that you can think of. I've either done it or know somebody that has, or have talked at length on this podcast with somebody that has, and I have all the experience that you could possibly want for a fantastic, fun triathlon coaching experience. One big thing that I do is I require for most of your workouts for you to put in some comments about how it went, because that tells me how it feels, and then I can adjust your training plan right from there. So that's what I do. And it's $199 a month. And send me an email at texafornia@gmail.com. And Texafornia is spelled TEXAFORNIA, texafornia@gmail.com. And I can get you set up. If you want to look at more of my experience, racing experience, and all-world athlete and race victories and all that other stuff, you can go to about Brett, or who is Brett, at zentriathlon.com. Okay, I want to go ahead and get that out of the way. Now, shh. Hey. Well, Emily just brought Zoe in here, our dog, and she's a loud barker because she just went next door and got a neighbor. Zoe, stop it. And that knows how to cut hair to try to fix Kai's hair. Okay, anyway, let's go ahead and cover, the virtual Ironman thing. Let's do that first. They announced that there's going to be some virtual racing, and it was going to be the equivalent of a half Ironman. Very recently, I did a half Ironman that was all off-road, and it was so cool. So I'm down with this. I love half Ironmans. They're pretty much my favorite. I mean, Ironmans are fantastic, but half Ironmans are, you can race your butt off and then be done noonish or so. You know what I mean? You got the rest of the day, and then you're not walking around. Sorry, I keep being interrupted. Okay, the half Ironmans are the best. So this fall, I did a half Ironman, which I just loved, and it was an off-road half Ironman. And the reason I'm telling you this is just to show you that you can do all kinds of different races. You know, it used to be, before Ironman got so popular, in the 80s and 90s, there was races of all kinds of crazy distances. And I think Ironman actually got popular and famous once Ironman as a brand took over and standardized everything. Because now you can kind of compare against each other. Okay. And I can do a race over here and it's the same distance as a race over there. When races are different distances all over the place, you got Alcatraz, which is kind of an Olympic. I did that one too. That was so cool. And that was like a dream come true, to swim from Alcatraz Island to shore. The rest of the bike and the run on that, I was like, I don't care how I do, because I was, trying to compete, sort of, but I was just so there for the swim, which is a bucket list item. Anyway, this race that I did was the Brick House Triathlon, I think is what it was called. But the long version was a swim, and they had to shorten the swim because the water got too really cold overnight. And then 6 or so mile mountain bike ride, and then a 2 mile trail run, over and over and over again until you hit 5 hours, because that's about how long it takes to do a half Ironman. And whoever had completed the most laps of all this after the swim was over. So you just did the swim once, and it was beautiful in this really great place. And I got third, and I got passed on the very last lap by a guy after the 5 hour mark. So I'm like, I think I got second. But again, it's so like laid back and fun that you would look like a douchebag going, I think that I got second. And because you're arguing over second and third, not even first. Oh, the mountain biking and everything. So anyway, half Ironmans are fantastic. And Ironman brand did this virtual thing, and it's a 5K run. So imagine if you go and do a half Ironman and they cancel the swim. I guess they do this sometimes. I've done tons of half Ironmans, and I've never had a swim canceled, I think. I'd have to think really hard. Have I ever had a swim canceled at a half Ironman? I've had many where they were almost canceled. Either lightning, or it's too foggy, or you can't see. Anyway, they sometimes do a 5K first, and that kind of breaks up the group a little bit, and then everybody gets on their bikes kind of a little bit more spread out, kind of like you're coming out of the swim. And so that's what you were supposed to do, is do a 5K and then a 5K run, 56 mile bike ride, and then a 13.1 mile run, half marathon. And they wanted you to connect to their software their online cloud stuff, your Strava account or your Garmin account or whatever. And you could do it outdoors if you could, and you had a window of time, Friday night to Sunday night. And they didn't really care what order you did it in. You didn't have to do it all right in a row. It just, all three needed to be done within that window. And let's see, I got my numbers of what I did. It was a little clunky at first, and it's just going to be clunky the very first time, getting it all set up. I was pretty frustrated, but I also knew I was frustrated because I'm just trying to figure it out. And then if I do another one of these, because they said there's a whole bunch more challenges coming up. What I did was I ran outside and did a 5K around my neighborhood. I did I don't like going and running for less than an hour. To me, going out and just running 3 miles, I'm kind of like, okay, and this doesn't really count. It's not really a race or anything like that. It's kind of a race, but it's not really. So I like to go run for an hour. So what I did, being that I'm in my 40s and it takes me half an hour, 3 miles to warm up, I went and jogged pretty easy, very easy actually, about a 10-minute mile. It's pretty hilly where I live. And the first part, and what I did is I kind of threw that out, and then I ran the second half of my hour. I made sure I ran instead of 3.1, I think I did 3.2. Anytime I do something self-supported or at home or something like that, I always do just a tiny bit extra. That way, nobody can say that you didn't do the real thing. So I ran like 3.2 instead of 3.1. 5K miles and 5K. And the time for that, I was actually jogging pretty easy. 9-minute mile, just jogging. And I have an old foot injury, some plantar fasciitis that I'm trying to get over. I didn't want to aggravate that. And especially because I was going to be running a half marathon the next day. And so I just wanted to take it kind of easy. So that's why I just jogged a 9-minute mile and saved it. Sat down on the computer, I looked and it had uploaded, and I had set up my bike already to do the bike ride on Zwift. And the thing was, I don't remember what I did. I changed clothes a little bit and kind of poked around, made sure Emily and Kai were doing something, and then and we're happy for a while. And I got on the trainer and rode the 56 miles. I did like 56.1, on Zwift, which took I have the numbers here. What'd I do? I don't have the time that it actually took me, but it was like 2 hours and 20 minutes or something. But I averaged 23.4 miles per hour. And by the way, on Zwift, if you put in the right weight and you ride on a triathlon bike, it is exactly the same time that you would ride outdoors. And I love it because before I got Zwift and a smart trainer, an hour on the trainer is like an hour and a half outside because you can't stop pedaling. The trainer, you just have to keep going or going and going and going, or else everything comes to a stop. But on Zwift, you can coast on the downhills, and it still it keeps up your speed. So that simulates outdoor riding a whole lot better. And then I have a front wheel holder that has a swivel on it. It came with a trainer one time, so I'm sure you can go out and buy these things. It's on a rotating bevel kind of thing. And so I turn as I go in the corners, and then I make sure I have a tri-bike. I have a nice tri-bike. I have a Trek Speed Concept, and I have, on that bike, I actually have a Zip 808 wheel set. So I have a Zip 404 front and an 808 rear, but actually with a disc cover on it. That's what I ride when I race. If you go to my Instagram, you can see it pop up every once in a while. It's beautiful. I love that bike so much. That's one of the reasons I got into triathlon, was the super cool bike. And I worked my way up over years. What's it been? It's been like 17 years of working my way up, bike after bike after bike, to finally getting a nice bike. A really, really nice bike. I've had some pretty nice ones, actually, starting about 10 years in, I think. And then but I sit up. My whole point was I ride in the arrow position. That way it's real. Because I want to make it as real as possible. So I have these numbers of what I would actually ride outside. So when I do a real race, I know kind of what to expect, how long I'm going to be out there and all that other stuff. And I have found that it is to the T, the same speeds and times that I ride outside, same power and everything like that. So I rode 23.4 miles per hour and average of 235 watts and an average heart rate of only 133 beats per minute. When I was mentioning my run times earlier, you might have been like, dude, this guy's a slow runner. This bike is insane. It's like really fast. So I've been training for my Gran Fondo, and I have a really nice bike splits, and I've just been holding off on the running. I'm a really fast swimmer too. So in an Ironman, I tend to do the swimming just at an hour, and with all the swimming background that I had growing up, just kind of cruising along on the swim, trying to swim as easy as I can, and I still do the swim in an hour, which shows you that swimming is really more about form and technique than anything else. And on the bike, I grew up biking all the time. Since I was a tiny little kid on a BMX bike, and then I think in college I was mountain biking like crazy, and then I rode my bike to school everywhere. I lived in a neighborhood on the northeast side of Houston. Everything's connected by bike paths, and all my friends rode BMX bikes. It was kind of like, what is that TV show that's been on? Stranger Things. We were like that. And then all the mountain biking. And then when I lived in San Diego for a few years, mountain biked out there religiously. I moved back to Texas, and I ended up living in a place where there wasn't any mountain biking nearby anymore. And that's how I got into triathlon. And started doing road biking, and would just do long road bike rides. I was really doing triathlon, but I do it on a road bike or tri bike, whatever. And so I'm a bike nut, and I've been working on my power over the years. Just the more you bike, the more power you end up generating. And the whole key with fitness, and this is what I coach, is you want to be fast but with a low heart rate. And that means it's easy. If your heart rate's lower, then it means it's easy for you to go fast. That's really what you're working on. So when you're doing something like an Ironman, you actually want to hold back, so you have like a low heart rate. And a half Ironman, and this, I wasn't trying to kill myself or anything like that, because this isn't going to qualify me for anything like Worlds or something like that. So just heart rate of 133, but I think my FTP is right around 300 right now, maybe a little bit over 300 watts, and that's a really nice, healthy FTP for an age grouper. And what that gets me is, like I was saying, 23.4 miles per hour, which is moving. That's really nice, at 235 watts with an average heart rate of just 133. And that sounds unbelievable, but that's what happens when you train enough so that all of a sudden your heart rate starts dropping and everything just a whole lot easier. You have to train enough base mileage so that suddenly your heart rate it's hard to get your heart rate up. And we're going to talk about that with Lionel Sanders, where people were in disbelief of how fast he was going. 500 watts at like 160 heart rate was like his max. He hit his 800 watts and whatever. He hit a max of 100 in this bike race that he did. And that's somebody who's really gifted and really well trained. Your heart rate's lower and lower for the same amount of power, or more power. It's really crazy. And anyway, so I was really looking at the numbers after I was done. I was like, that's nice. That's really healthy. I would have done pretty good in my little Gran Fondo. And then the next day, I went out for a run. And like I said, I haven't run because I've been getting over a foot injury, plantar fasciitis. And the run was 13.1 miles. And what I did was 2 loops. After right around an hour, I stopped by my house again and grabbed another fuel bottle of water and fuel, and then kept going. I changed running shoes, which is a really smart thing to do if you're kind of babying your feet a little bit. And I just kept jogging and just under a 10-minute mile, so 9:54, but at a 136 heart rate, so just easy jogging. Had 300 feet of elevation gain, just pretty level, pretty flat. About half the course is nice and level, and the other half has hills. So that's what I ended up with. And the back to the bike ride. It was 1,120 feet of elevation gain. So after everything was done, after the bike ride on Saturday and then the second run on Sunday, I had a really fun time on the run. The weather was great. And everything got uploaded, and I have no idea what I placed. I'm not really worried about it. It was just fun, and I really appreciated it. Oh, and while I was on the bike on Saturday, they happened to be showing the female pros doing the bike ride too, and they rode on Ruvi, a Ironman Boulder course. They did 56 miles, and it was Angela Nath, who's been on the show a bunch of times. She's awesome cyclist pro. Jocelyn McCauley, who is a awesome pro, and she's actually from College Station, where we're from here. And she's been to my house, and we've been running together and stuff. Zoe, it's okay. And then another person was Miranda Carfrey, and as Rennie, as everybody calls her. And it was really funny watching them. And there was another female pro, and I forgot her name. I think she's from South Africa. I wasn't really familiar with her. And they had little kids. They were streaming videos from their houses online on a Facebook Live video. So it had the camera would be on all three of them, four of them. It'd be on one of them, whatever. And they were working their asses off, and it was really funny. Two of them, Jocelyn and Rennie, both have little kids. I don't know if the other pro does too, but Angela doesn't have kids. But the little kids coming in and out of the picture, and husbands and boyfriends coming in and out of the picture and helping out. Jocelyn McCauley's husband was putting up dumb dad joke signs that, oh my God, they were so terrible. It was funny. And then, so Tim O'Donnell, who's been the fastest American at Kona over and over and over again. And if you don't know who Rennie is, Miranda Carfrey, she's won Ironman World Champs I don't know how many times. But they're married, and Tim O'Donnell accidentally kicked the power plug on the smart trainer that she was on. So her whole thing came undone in a way, and she fell off the back, and they were riding virtually against each other with little avatars on, and Ruvi does a video of the course, and it plays from the point of view of the cyclist, and then you're on it, and then it also shows a map of whoever else is on it. It looks pretty cool. I've never used Ruvi. I've used some other stuff. Well, did I use? No. Yeah, I think I have used Ruvi one time. But anyway, and it was so cool. I happened to get on the bike about 20 minutes after they got on the bike. So for the definite majority of my bike ride, I was watching them. I'd say for 95% of it. So that was really cool. And it made it go by. So I'd give it a big thumbs up. But it took a lot of planning and to get it done right. And yeah, that was pretty cool. Zoe, come here. Okay, so that was this weekend, just a couple days ago. And a couple weekends ago, I did my own self-supported first 2 legs of an Ironman, a full Ironman, not just a half, because my Gran Fondo got canceled, and I was really bummed about that. The Gran Fondo, we have a local Gran Fondo that's 105 miles long. They say it's 100 miles, but it's of course it's 105. They also run a 500-mile gravel race at the same time that takes a couple days for the winners to finish. It's pretty epic. But last year they had to cancel it because of the weather, and I was really disappointed. So I was super excited about it being this year because the previous I don't remember if I've won it the previous 2 years or the previous 3 years. I can't remember, but I've been first place in the 105 mile, on road version of this thing. And Emily's doing dishes next door in the kitchen in the next room over. And the thing is, I love doing that. It's a local thing, and I love showing up, and it really surprises me, that I can win it. And so I definitely have that thing where you realize that being the winner is kind of, in a weird way, is a little bit of a burden, because you got to keep winning it. You really hang your ego on that hat rack that you're the champ, so you've got to keep winning it. Because I guess if you don't win it, then you're not as good as you used to be, or something like that. But anyway, so I was bummed when they canceled it, but of course completely understood because of the coronavirus thing. I was kind of like, well, why don't we just do the race anyway, and then just tell everybody to spread out at the beginning. But what we're seeing after all this is people are so dense sometimes mentally about staying apart and what actually spreads things, like just because like how viruses are spread, and like how not to be contagious, how not to act when you might be contagious of stuff. A lot of people have no clue, and so you just can't. Well, then there's children too, and you can't expect them to know. But if you asked everybody to stay apart and then ride, start the ride spread out on this huge boulevard that it all starts off on, 6 feet apart from everybody, they would still all bunch up at the beginning. I just know that they would. And then now, a couple of weeks later, looking at like how everything's locked down and no groups of people at all, anywhere. If you're out, and here in Texas, if you're outside, you have to be by yourself pretty much. You can go for a run, go for a bike ride, but you need to be by yourself. I guess Kai and I could go together, and then we could say that we're family. But we would probably be pulled over and then asked, why are you two riding so close together? I said, oh, it's my son. But anyway, I think I canceled, and just like a few days before it was going to happen. And I said, okay, I'm going to try to make something cool out of a bummer and make it unique and fun. What could I do? And I said, yeah, I'll swim in my backyard pool and for an hour, because that's about how long it would take me to do an Ironman swim. And then on the bike ride, I'll ride Zwift for 112 miles, and I've never done that. And I was going to mention on the show how to work your way up to 112 miles or 5 hours or something like that, whatever it is for you, how to work your way up to really long bike rides on Zwift or on the trainer. And there's a bunch of different little tips. So one is you work your way up to an hour, and then on the weekends you work your way up to 2 hours. And then basically your short rides need to be about an hour, and then up to an hour, and during the week. And then on the weekends you do like 2 hours, and then you do 2.5, and then 3, and you plan this all out way ahead of time. So as you're coming up to your Ironman or your 100-mile Grand Fondo or whatever thing that's you're gonna have you out on the bike in the real world for 5 hours, you are up to at least 3 hours on the trainer. And what I've learned is on the trainer, you can either watch TV or movies if that's what you want to do. But if you're riding like Zwift or Ruvi or something like that, you can watch YouTube videos, and you can right click twice on YouTube on your computer, and then it'll say picture in picture, and you're like, yeah. And then what it does is has a resizable window with no frame around it that you can drag, and I put it right in the lower middle of Zwift if I'm doing like a long bike ride. Once I go over an hour, I want something to watch. I was doing an hour today, and I was watching the Paris-Roubaix from last year, 2 years ago. I think it was 2018. And I was watching that in the middle of my Zwift session, kind of picture in picture, like in the middle of it. And it makes the time go by like really fast. So when I was doing my Corona Man is what we ended up calling it. Hashtag Corona Man. I watched the Tour of Germany, I think it was. And it's like 4 stages or something like that. So I watched like 3 stages of 2.5 stages of the Tour of Germany. And that made the time go by really, really well. And I had all my food and water all lined up next to me. And I had worked my way up to recently 3 hours on the trainer. I've done that plenty of times before, just not recently. So even if you've done it before, you got to work your way up to it again if you haven't done it recently. If it's been a while, because it is, it's something to get used to. And if you just add like 30 minutes every weekend on your long ride, and this is for outdoor riding too, then you want to work your way up to a 5-hour bike ride outdoors. Well, yeah, you just add 30 minutes every time, or 20 minutes, whatever. And at some point, the length of the ride, if you've never done 112 miles before, then it's definitely worth it to go out and do a 112-mile bike ride so you can see how long it really is before you go into an Ironman. So you can appreciate how hard and sucky it is at the end of that thing. And that will keep you from trying too hard early on and then blowing up. You know that you got to hold back because this thing's going to suck towards the end of it. And then you got to go run. But after you've done 1 or 2 112-mile bike rides in real life, maybe 3, I don't know, then you don't need to go do those anymore. And I remember it was either me talking to Chrissy Wellington or somebody else she was on an interview, because I did meet her and talk with her one time. And she said, they asked what her long ride is, and it's 3 hours, is what she said. And they go, just 3 hours? And she's like, yeah, anything more than 3 hours is stupid. Once you start going over 3 hours, it's not really a training ride anymore. You're not training to improve yourself anymore. It takes so long to recover from a 3-hour ride. It takes days to recover from a 3-hour ride that if you want to keep training, now you have to spend your time recovering, and now you can't be training anymore. And so 3 hours is about the limit of it. But there's 2 different things that you're training, right? Are you training your fitness or are you training your mind? One or the other. And that's why I was saying that if you've never done it before, then it's definitely worth it to do a 5-hour bike ride, so that you can see what it's like. But once you know what it's like, you don't need to do it anymore. And I've interviewed a lot of ultra runner pros, and also done a bunch of them, and not pro, but I've done a bunch of ultra runner races. I listen to a lot of ultra running podcasts too, and they say the same thing: is once you've run 100-mile trail run race, you would never, ever, even a 50-mile trail run race, you don't go out and run 50 miles as part of your training. That is completely not worth your time. It takes so long to recover from that. That's stupid. But it really helps if you're going to do a long race, like a 50-mile or even 100. I don't know if you'd ever do 100-mile in training for a 100-miler, but you need to get close to that distance so you know how bad it really is going to be once. And then when you get out there, you're not surprised with how horrible it actually is going to be. I loved it, but my first ever epic one was a 50-miler, and I couldn't believe how bad it hurt. But once you do that, then running 2 hours, 2.5, 3 hours, they would professional ultra running coaches would never recommend you running longer than that as a training run. It just doesn't help anything. It actually bangs you up too much, especially with running, right, versus biking. So anyway, I worked up to 3 hours on the bike, and I've done plenty of 100-mile, 112-mile Ironman, like that bike rides before. So I was like, okay. And really what I was looking for during my 3-hour rides was what was my power numbers, what was my heart rate, everything like that, which is all being measured. And I can go to Strava and afterwards and go look at all that. What's my power curve? What's my FTP? And so so I have numbers to target for a long ride. So if you're doing an Ironman, here's a coaching tip for y'all. If you're new to Ironman, you do like 75, 78%, maybe 80% of your FTP power if you have a power meter, and keep your heart rate in zone 2. And that's about it. And that way you'll have a good run. And so I think if you have an FTP of 300, then that would be like 230, I think. I'd have to pull out a calculator. But you would bike 230, and then that would be your upper limit average watts. And then you would, but definitely keep your heart rate in zone 2 for you, which for me would be in the low 130s heart rate. And then if you've got experience and you're really well trained, you can up that somewhat. You can do like up to like, I think it's like 85% of your FTP, and you can start to kind of bounce around zone 2, zone 3 a little bit. When I was really racing hard at 50-mile trail run races, I did one, I think my fastest ever trail run race was 9 hours, and I was in the upper end of zone 2 and into zone 3 the entire time, and then ran all the way through the upper end of zone 3 at the end. And for a 50-mile trail run race, I think I got top third, which is really, really good for somebody that's, didn't really have a background in long distance trail running or anything like that. Can you do something with her? Are you all done?
Yeah, Jan rescued us.
Okay. But so that's an example of like and I'd really trained really well for that race. I'd done a ton of running. I'd got my running mileage up to 100 miles a week, and plus like 101, 102 miles a week. I cut back on all my biking and all my swimming. And the thing was, and I'd been running in a weight vest at not every run, but a lot of my runs. No, not a lot of my runs. Some of my runs, and then running hills with a weight vest on, and I blew through that 50-mile trail run race like it was, that's such a colloquialism, like a knife through hot butter. But it was easy until like mile 30. But I was able to run like really fast. I was drinking beet juice, which has a lot of extra oxygen in it, and or helps you carry extra oxygen in your blood. But that whole thing, my heart rate was higher than normal because I was able to do that, because I was able to go harder and sustain it for a longer period of time. I was really surprised, actually, on that thing. So anyway, back to the thing I did a couple weeks ago, my Corona Man. My plan was to actually run when I got done with the bike. So I did this hour swim, and I did it in the backyard pool, tethered, with elastic cords and stuff like that, which is makes it feel very realistic. Water was cold, so I needed to I have a 2-piece wetsuit, so I wore the top half to keep my upper body warm, and then the water was cold and the air was cold, so I got out. It was really funny. I wasn't expecting this. Was my I had sea legs, like I was dizzy from the back and forth action of the chop and I was creating in the pool. And what was funny, that's like swimming like open water in the ocean or something. And it was very realistic. It was funny. And then my feet were cold. My legs were cold, just like I'd been swimming in a really cold lake. So I hopped on the bike, and this one I made sure there was almost no time between me finishing the swim, and I got right on the bike, had everything all set up. And then I started biking 112 miles, and I did fine until I think it was mile 85 or something like that. I was about 4 hours in and was cruising along, doing really well. And I think I was averaging like upper 22 miles per hour, like maybe around 23 miles per hour. And my stomach started backing up with the fuel, and I started feeling, I wasn't feeling sick to my stomach, but I felt like a big gas bubble. So, and then what happens is my if your fuel isn't working right, your heart rate will drop. So normally over a long period of time of running or biking, your heart rate will increase. The more dehydrated you get, your blood gets thicker throughout the day, and it gets hotter, and all that. Your blood gets thicker. Your heart has to work harder to pump the blood. And let me make sure I'm recording, by the way. Hold on. Yes, I am. Your heart rate goes up for the same effort. So you're feeling like you're doing, and on an Ironman, you need to feel like you're doing like a 6 or 7 out of 10. Not really trying, maybe even less, like 5 out of 10 really. And and what you do is you look at your speed and your heart rate, your watts versus your effort. And if that doesn't match up like it does in training, and that's one reason I really like to do the Zwift and everything else, where you can measure everything and do lots of practice rides where you can measure, what should things be at when you're going easy, medium, and hard, a scale of 1 to 5, everything. Then my heart rate was low, and I have an alarm on my bike computer. It was going off that my heart rate was too low. It was getting into the 120s, low 120, like 123 or something like that. Heart rate was too low, but I was trying really hard. I was struggling to keep up the same speed I was doing before. And what that means is fuel is not getting to your muscles. So there's 2 reasons. Either you're not eating enough fuel, or another thing is you're doing something that's stopping your fuel. You're eating enough fuel, but it's not getting through your stomach. And that's what my problem was. It wasn't getting through my stomach. Some people will make the mistake of, I do this often, I used to do this. I've learned I need to eat more fuel. But what's happens is your stomach's got like a traffic jam going on in it. And I can go into another podcast what's going on there, but it's the osmolality and the molecular weight of your fuel. You're basically creating a traffic jam of simple sugars and stuff in there instead of complex carbs and all that, and not enough water, not enough sodium, electrolytes, to pass everything through. It's very complicated stuff, and you learn over time what actually works and what doesn't. But this was getting backed up, and I got off the bike to pee real quick, and then I felt like this huge gas bubble. So I laid like you're praying to Mecca, like butt up in the air, knees on the ground, and your chest is low to the ground, like your neck on the ground, the side of your head on the ground if you can. And what that does is it lets gas bubble go up to your butt, and then you fart it out, and it is amazing. Like all of a sudden you're like, holy cow, I feel great. And it really works on bike rides and runs. It just looks really stupid in the middle of a competition to do that. People think that you might be dying or something like that, so you need to find a quiet place off to the side, which some races is impossible to do. But it really helps. And if you're burping, it's coming back up, and you need to drink more water. If you're farting, then things are going the right direction, and things should be getting better. You need to keep doing what you were just doing to make everything moving again. And anyway, so I had a low spot for a little while. But what was cool was instead of drinking liquid fuels, I switched over to solid fuels. And the day before, we went to the grocery store, and I got bagels. Like plain white bagels, because then there's almost no fiber. It digests really easy, but it's a solid food. And a lot of people do better if they start having trouble with liquid fuel than solid fuel. Your stomach really likes it. And bagels are fantastic for this. And bagels turn out, actually, the ones I had were pretty high in sodium too, which made them taste really great. And that's electrolyte getting through to you, and they go down really easily. And in one bagel, these were pretty big bagels, like 270 calories. So I ate one over the next half hour to 45 minutes, and I went from my mood going like, I might have to quit at 100 miles because I don't feel good and I'm not having fun anymore. And this isn't like a real race. I was kind of making this up to like, yeah, I could make that 100 miles, no problem. And then the mentality thing that you do as a long distance endurance athlete is you say, just keep going until you set in the future. some sort of like landmark or, another point where you're going to reevaluate. Just make it. So I was like, I know I can struggle to do 100 miles. And when I get to 100, then I'll decide there. And I'm going to do everything right between now and then and go into repair mode, which is basically slow down, drink more water, switch fuel sources to something else. And another mistake that people make is they start falling behind of their goals, so they start trying harder. And that's a huge mistake that you do for long distance stuff. And actually, if things aren't going right and you're struggling, you need to back off and go easier, and then let your fuel and your water and everything else catch back up, and you're kind of resting a little bit more. Because say, the situation is a bike ride, right? Well, you still got to run a marathon after that thing if you're doing a real Ironman outdoors. And you don't oh my gosh, it is like the formula. I remember doing this in the very first half Ironman I ever did. I did the one in Lubbock, Buffalo Springs, which is a really hard one. This is one reason that people hide their numbers on a bike computer. Pros do this all the time. Because I got it in my head that I was going to average whatever miles per hour on that bike ride. And then as I started struggling towards the end, it looked like I might not make that number. Well, I started trying harder, and then that wore me out. And then I remember on the run, I ran about 100 yards and then needed to walk. I'd never done a half Ironman before. This is like in 2003, 2004, something like that. I learned, pretty quickly to back off, and you don't want to, though. I mean, you're kind of admitting defeat there, but that's what Ironman is. Ironman is death by 1,000 cuts. And who makes the fewest mistakes is actually going to go the fastest, because you're going to make mistakes. Ironman triathletes will have like one perfect race their entire career. Where like as a swimmer, like I had perfect races, because they're like 50 yards or 100 yards. You have them like once a weekend or something. Ironman, because they're so long, anything that's super long, trail running races, anything that's super long, and that's what's so much fun about them, is basically you got your plan A, and then your plan B, and then your plan C, and then your plan D, and then also you have, and it takes years of experience of every single thing that can go wrong. What are you going to do if, right? What do I do if I have a blister? Well, I've got this like Vaseline lip therapy stuff. This is a small Vaseline thing that I carry. Okay, what are you going to do if you have a blister and you've lost that? Right? What are you going to do if on the bike, what are you going to do if you're trail running and you fall down and you get your hands absolutely covered in dirt? And then now you got dirt and grime and sand all over you and you're sweaty, right? What are you going to do if you're on the bike during a long bike event or an Ironman and your chain breaks? What are you going to do if you have electronic shifting and then your derailleur locks up? It's just on and on and on, all of these things. Because in an Ironman, you can pretty much fix any situation in about 5 minutes. And over 10 to 15 hours, 5 minutes is, no difference whatsoever. But if you don't know how to handle it, it can ruin you. And if you handle it wrong, it'll make your race way worse and maybe have you not finish it. So anyway, back to this other thing. I switched over to solid fuels. And because even though all my liquid fuel planning, I was like, it's going to go perfectly. Yeah, but what if it doesn't? Okay, one thing is to have some solid fuels. I had them in a Ziploc. I had bagels in a Ziploc right next to me on the bike, just in case. And it worked spectacularly. And I made it to 100 miles. And I noticed by the time I made it to 100 miles, I was feeling a little bit better. And I was like, I'm on an upward trend of feeling better. And then 105 miles felt way better. And then by 108, I felt fantastic and was pretty much almost back to where I was before I started feeling bad at like 85 miles by the time I got to 100, about 108. And but the entire time I was just trudging along, trying to do the best I could. And the plan was, and so I finished the bike ride portion of this thing on Zwift. Do I have the numbers? I averaged something pretty decent. I don't know if I had the numbers. It took me, no, I guess I don't have it. I thought I had it in my notes here. It took me like 5 hours and 15 minutes, and like I averaged 22.7, I think, miles per hour, 22.5, something like that. And which, if I didn't have that fueling issue and had to slow down, I would have had, well, that's your perfect race, right? Which hardly ever happens. I think I would have done like 5:05 or something like that. But anyway, and my goal is to do a sub 10-hour Ironman, which is a 5-hour. If I do a 5-hour bike ride and a 1-hour swim, I think if I run a 9-minute mile or a mid 8-minute mile, so like a 8:30 something, maybe a high 8, then I think that gets me just under 10 hours. Would be a nice thing to do. And so I'm always like, it's totally feasible, doable, and on paper and everything. And so I'm always trying to get my training, kind of wrapped around that kind of target. And a lot of times it's very doable. And but then I do a race like Ironman Texas where it's 1 billion degrees outside, and then I just cook in the heat and struggle. So I'm always looking for like the right race. I would do really good in a race because I'm a bigger guy. I'm 6'3", 185 pounds on race day. And so I overheat pretty bad. And even with all kinds of heat training and growing up in Texas and, being very used to the heat, it's still just a lot of heat. And so the races that I've done that are colder, I do really, really well. I really surprise myself. And it's because my body doesn't hold on to the heat so much and cook me. But anyway, that's a little side story there. But, so I was going to go run after this, and my plan was to run 9 miles. That was like my plan A was to run 9 miles. Because I hadn't been doing enough running really to run much more than that, because I've been training for this bike race specifically. So my run mileage was a little bit too low. My long run was like 9 miles. So running more than that, just standalone, would be unusual. And running more than 9 miles, especially after biking 112, would be really dumb because I'm coming off of a foot injury. And if you run longer than what you're used to, then your form comes apart. If you run more tired than what you're used to, then your form comes apart. Bad form is what causes running injuries specifically. Especially tired legs, long distance. You start running all hunched over and slamming your legs in the ground and shuffling and pushing hard, using extra muscles, and you can strain yourself, all kinds of stuff. And then, so my target was 9 miles. That was my plan A. Plan B was 6 miles. I was very confident I was going to be able to do it. And I could have actually done the 6, except that the coach in me was like, I was really annoyed and bummed. That's the word. I was bummed about this. Is that low spot I had on the bike for about 45 minutes, almost to an hour, was what it did was, remember I was saying earlier, you're pushing really hard, but you're not going as fast. So your effort, your strain is high compared to how fast you should be going faster, right? So you're straining. Well, what that does is you're really working your muscles, your ligaments and everything harder. You're really digging deep. And that was way more extra load on my legs. I could tell when I got off the bike. I was like, yeah, this would not be smart to run on these legs right now. Because I have a choice, I don't have to do this thing. And I can just run tomorrow and see whatever. So because I have, if I had no injury whatsoever, I would be like, yeah, just do it. I don't care. I've done that too many times. But I got on the couch and drank an IPA instead and really liked it. So, and then a little while later, just walking around, I was like, oh yeah, your legs are kind of, it was funny. Like my legs were kind of banged up, even though I biked pretty easy. Like by the numbers, I biked easy, but I could tell I was straining for that little bit. And then what was really interesting is once the energy came back on, because the fuel started working again, that at the end it felt easy again. But that window of time of extra strain to keep up the speed really busted up my legs. It's pretty crazy how that works. And then I knew I was right because the next day I went out for a run and I ran 9 miles and really enjoyed it and had plenty of energy and felt great. And I was able to have, nice form and everything, but I could feel it. I could feel that my legs, that it would have been a mistake to run on those the day before. Another little little tangent off to the side is the first few times that you do something really, really long distance, you are banged up really bad. And then the more of them that you do, you'll find that your recovery time gets shorter and shorter and shorter. So people who, your very first Ironman, you are going to feel like you need a wheelchair and crutches for a week. And then the next time you do it, it's for 4 days, 5 days, maybe 4 days. And then the next time you do it, it's 3 days. And then once you start doing them, once you've done a bunch of them, then it's a couple days. You feel kind of banged up, so yeah, I did 112 mile bike ride very next day, ran 9 miles. It was whatever. And then right after that, went right back into training again. And I consider training just exercise. And and so the half Ironman thing I ran a half marathon for the first time in a long time, day before yesterday, I think it was. And I think that was my third day in a row of running, maybe fourth day. I think it was my fourth day in a row of running. I took 1 day off running and then went back out and ran again today and felt fine. I was actually faster. And that comes with experience. So if you see people doing that, it's because they've been doing it a lot. And you can get there too, is what I'm saying. Anyway, so that was that. I'm on Instagram at ZenTriathlon and Twitter on ZenTriathlon. There might be a couple of pictures of me doing that thing. I really liked it. And let's see. Lionel Sanders. Let's talk about him. He was in the news right before the quarantine, climbing Mount Lemmon he rides for Canyon now, on a Canyon road bike, and he broke the record for riding up Mount Lemmon, which is a mountain right outside of out of Tucson. And it's famous, very, very famous climb. And it takes an hour, and the record was hour 18, I think, by Phil Guyman. And Phil Guyman is a semi-retired, he's very much a retired pro, but he's only semi-retired bike racing. And his favorite thing to do is to go, he rode in the Tour de France, and I think, but he's a big time pro cyclist, specifically cyclist, and a climber. And he likes going and taking mountain climb titles, Strava King of the Mountains, from dopers who own them. And he had the King of the Mountain for Mount Lemmon at an hour and 18 minutes. And, as a Tour de France level pro cyclist that has no upper body and is all legs and on a hacked down bike that is super lightweight, that's considered pretty much the gold standard and very difficult, if impossible, to beat. And I think it's average like 6-7% grade, maybe. So average over an hour and something. And maybe it's more. But anyway, Lionel Sanders went out and did it, and they videoed it of him doing it and broke Phil Guyman's record by 2 minutes, which infuriates the cycling world that a triathlete can be that good. And some people that don't know, how good Lionel is, and just infuriated, say he was cheating, something like. Nope, they got video footage of the entire thing. And honestly, over an hour and something going uphill, there's a whole lot of factors that could come into play. Aerodynamics, wind, weather, stuff like that. But yeah, he just went and did it, and he had power meter, heart rate monitor on, so you can see the whole thing, video footage of the whole thing. It's really great. And Phil Guyman, he's really funny, and he's a good sport about the whole thing. He in the video that they made of Lionel Sanders, they added the bit, a video reply from Phil Guyman saying that this aggression will not stand or something like that, especially coming from a triathlete. This is horrible. So he's going to go back out and take it back when he can. And that's going to be a really cool thing to watch. But then on Zwift, there was a bike race. They have races all the time, but they had the guys from, Alpecin, I forgot how you say it, Phoenix, the European Pro Tour de France cycling team, and also they had the best Zwifters in the world, which the more you ride Zwift, the better you get. And they, on that team and this other teams and whatever that were all in this bike race, it was a crit race on Zwift, was also Matthew Vanderpoel, who is cyclocross world champion, mountain bike world champion, has won stages of single day classic bike races in Europe. He's obviously from, where is he from? Is he from Denmark? Belgium? I forgot. But anyway, and he, best in the world, absolute best in the world. And so all the advertising that came up for this race for people to watch it was, all about Matthew Vanderpoel. The ads for it, everything. Vanderpoel, come watch this thing. This is going to be awesome. And it ended up taking, they had to do however many laps. Ended up taking like 36 minutes, 37 minutes of racing. Well, with 8 minutes to go or something like that, Lionel Sanders was in it. And he broke away from the pack, and then a couple other guys caught back up with him. But he broke away from the peloton, and then at the end of the race, and the cool thing is you can see all their wattage that they're putting out. And another video came out where they had the camera on Lionel Sanders, and so there's two videos, one of everything, and then one of, but it didn't have any like individual racers on it, and one from Lionel Sanders' point of view, from him racing this thing, putting out 500, 600, 700, 800 watts stuff for several minutes at a time. And he broke away from the front of the pack, and the announcers are like, we were laughing about this at first because he's just a triathlete, but oh my God, what are we? This is crazy. What's going to happen? And Lionel Sanders won, and he out raced by like a couple bike lengths. I think a couple guys, and then the whole peloton behind that. It was absolutely amazing to see, jaw-dropping experience. And so there was that. And then Mark Cavendish hosted a group ride on Zwift, and I did that. And it was just middle of the day kind of thing. But it almost broke the internet. 6,000 people or something like that, all trying to ride all at once. And a lot of us thought Mark Cavendish was in front of us, because why wouldn't he be? And ended up riding harder and harder and harder going off the front. And I ended up riding the hardest I'd ridden on a bike ride in like a couple years or something, and for an hour, because that's how long it was supposed to be, an hour. Because everybody at the front of this thing, you couldn't see where Mark Cavendish was. So we all just assumed he was in front of us. Well, it turns out he was behind us, like way behind us, because he's just lollygagging along, like enjoying the ride. And I wasn't even close. I was close to the front, but I'm sure there was lots of people still in front of me. But I averaged 27 miles an hour, trying to chase down Mark Cavendish, who wasn't even in front of me. And the reason I was able to, do that kind of speed was, they had drafting. I was riding a road bike in Zwift, and they have drafting enabled and stuff like that. So I was in like little mini packs and pelotons and stuff, going off the front, trying to hunt down Mark Cavendish. And but it was really, really cool. I had the time of my life. It was so much fun. And I think for the hour, I averaged 280 something watts for an hour, and was a little toasted at the end, but felt pretty good. And then that's where both on Strava and on Zwift, it'll calculate what your FTP should be. And then based on that, plus, some faster, like 5, 10, 20-minute stuff that I did, that was, I think the first 10 minutes of that ride, I averaged 310 or 315 watts, trying to keep up with a group that was trying to chase down Mark Cavendish. We thought was trying to chase down Mark Cavendish. And so the software will take that and then build a curve and then say, okay, so your FTP should probably be around 300. If you're doing 310 for 20 minutes, it was like 290. And then I know that I finished I feeling like I could have gone faster. And so that's how I know like I could probably do about 300 for an FTP. And a lot of people nowadays say, I was listening to a podcast earlier today, Cycling News or whatever. They have professional upper end coaches, and they're like, yeah, I don't do FTP tests anymore. Don't need to. Just race. And then look at your race. And because racing, you'll actually go your hardest. And then that's build a curve off of that. And then with Zwift, you can race anytime you want because there's races all the freaking time. And they're not some big deal that you got to, drive to or something like that. And let's see, the day after I did the Cavendish ride, there was a group workout ride with Jan Frodeno. And I put Kai on, and Kai has a Zwift account, and Kai biked with Jan Frodeno. And it turns out the race went up the side of a volcano, and Kai was dying trying to keep up, and he didn't go hard enough at the beginning. And it's like real bike riding where you want to, and that's why like the day before with me and Mark Cavendish, I was trying to go off the front because I just figured Cavendish would take off. But Jan kind of took off a little bit, I guess. And then, so Kai was trying to play catch up and then missed him. But it was really neat. We could see where Jan Frodeno was, and on the way up the volcano, Kai was getting towards the top, and Jan Frodeno turned around and came down. And the volcano's an out and back, going up the volcano in Zwift. So you could see Jan Frodeno coming down as Kai was going up. Like he goes by, and then Emily and I are sitting there watching, and then that was so much like in a real triathlon where Ironman Canada, climbing up the big mountain climb in Whistler. I remember climbing up and then seeing Andy Potts come down, which was nice because I'd seen him earlier in the day and mistakenly stuck my hand out in the men's bathroom and shook his hand right after I'd been to the bathroom, and that was a faux pas of sorts. And then Ironman Galveston, or half Ironman Galveston. This has happened endless times, but just off the top of my head, like lately, riding, and it's an out and back, and you're headed out, and the pros start coming back, and you see them coming. It's so cool. I did the race the same year that Lance Armstrong did it, for example. I've done Galveston a bunch of times, and that's really neat, seeing Starkowitz and who else is famous for doing Galveston? Well, Armstrong, Sebastian Kienle. We were there one year, and Kai Rennie did it, and yeah, that's really neat. Anyway, that's what I love about doing Ironmans, is you're out there on the course with everybody. Yeah, so riding with Cavendish, riding with Jan Frodeno, doing 112 miles, on this thing, which I've never done, 112-mile bike ride on a trainer on Zwift. I've done years and years ago, I did 5 hours on rollers. as a dare, as a bet. Because one of my friends did 4.5 hours or something like that. And I was like, well, shit, now I got to do 5 hours. And that was it. I did 5 hours, and then no one upped it from there on rollers. Just getting off very short to pee a couple times. And then there's something else stuff done really stupid on the bike like that. Oh, but anyway, some guy, I was feeling like kind of dumb and stupid for doing such long stuff on the trainer. And because a lot of people will be like, man, I don't know, Zwift and it's a video game or whatever. But some guy, not just some guy, an ex-pro cyclist, did 24 hours on Zwift. There's a YouTube channel for GCN, Global Cycling Network, and he was going to try to do 24 hours because of the lockdown and see what it was like. And he's done at least one 24-hour bike ride outdoors in like Wales, around England, and bad weather and stuff like that. And there's a really good video, 10 minutes long or something like that, of him riding 24 hours on Zwift. And he did a little bit extra because he took 45 minutes of stopping time. So he did like 24 hours and 45 minutes total to make up for the time that he stopped. And riding around the big loops, and stuff like that in Zwift. And it was exactly like my experience where like Zwift has got where you can coast downhill. You can kind of set it up a little bit so you can turn and stuff like that. The problem is you're kind of locked into the same position more. And I've learned over the years riding indoors how to stand and make sure you turn the bike some and shake your legs out and stuff like that. But definitely ride standing, ride sitting up. If you're riding in Zwift, it's a very similar situation. Like it's uphill, well then sit up. If it's downhill, ride in the arrow position. If it's and coast a little bit, and then if you get up right behind somebody and you can't pass them, like you're going to pass them very slowly, then sit up. And you're going into a turn, then sit up a little bit and kind of lean the bike a little bit. All this stuff makes it more like riding outdoors, and it really helps. So, this guy did it, and I was surprised. He said it was harder than riding outdoors, even in the horrible weather. He said the part about being, not really able to turn your body all that much, and you're kind of locked into the same position and whatever. It's like if in the real world, like you're going up and down, that kind of you're putting your weight in different spots on the bike. That really helps a lot. And he said it was harder, which I definitely believe that doing trainer rides on a dumb trainer where you can't stop, or like say rollers or something like that, where you can't stop or else you're going to fall off, is harder. That whole thing where an hour on the trainer is like an hour and a half outside. And especially on a trainer and on Zwift, there's no stoplights, there's no traffic, so you just ride. You don't know how many breaks you actually take on your bike until you ride a trainer, right? All those little intersections and stuff where you coast and you got to wait on a traffic light or a car or something like that. Those are all little breaks, and all the downhill coasting and stuff, and then that you don't really appreciate until you get on a trainer. And at least Zwift, so I would normally say definitely a dumb trainer is harder than riding outdoors. But riding on Zwift, I would take about half of how much harder it is away and say it's like riding Zwift is like riding an hour and 10, hour and 15 minutes outside. An hour on Zwift is. And but he said, and it was harder. And what's really funny is it's very authentic that it was very, he was wrecked, like 7 hours in, and he still got to go all this extra time. And which shows how tough he is. And It's from GCN, which is a great video bike channel with lots. They got lots of crew and staff and everything, so they did a really good job of producing this. It's not something that's hard to watch. It's really well done, and they you can tell something's authentic, that it really challenged the person. An endurance event. when he was done, he took like 2 steps from the bike and then laid down on the ground. I was like, yes, dude, that is real. Because I remember one time, I think it was like the 3rd or 4th Ironman I ever did, I raced it against a friend. And when I crossed the finish line, I laid down on the ground, and Kai hit me with glow sticks. It's really funny. We got this picture of it. And when I did an Ultraman, my self-supported Ultraman, I finished and walked in the house, laid down on the couch. Emily handed me a beer. I drank about half the beer and passed out on the couch, cursing. And then I'm trying to think of other things. I remember my first ever ultra-long trail run. I did 50 miles, and I had blisters on the undersides of my feet that were terrible. I was so destroyed and beat up that when I was done, I went over to the little crappy log cabin with a concrete floor that we were staying in, which was like right there. It was like 100 yards away from the finish line. Walked in there, laid down on the ground, and then in a little while, I needed to pee, and I considered peeing myself because I couldn't get up to go outside the cabin to go pee. It hurt so bad, and I didn't. I went out and pee because I knew it would be warm. It was cold. It was like in December, it was February, and cold. My pee would be, it would feel okay. I wasn't going to say feel good, but it would feel okay and warm for about a couple minutes, and then I would be freezing my ass off, and not much soon after that, and it would be a terrible situation. But it was funny how I considered it for a minute. I was so destroyed. But anyway, this guy gets off the bike, and he's like, he just lays down on the ground. I was like, yes, dude. Yes, dude, you have spent yourself. That's what I love to see. And that's real endurance stuff. Okay, so let's go ahead and wrap up the show. I'm going to go and grab an IPA and enjoy that for a minute, and I'll come right back and give you a couple tips on how to work from home during all this stuff, and give you the coaching link and maybe a training tip or two on the way out, and wrap up the show. I'll be right back. Hold on. All right, we are back. Since I left you, let's see, that was a couple of days ago. And then yesterday, I ran 6 miles in the morning and then got on the bike before everybody else woke up and started biking, trying to get a bike ride out of the way. And I'm suddenly oddly inspired to ride Alp Dâ Zwift, which is Alp d'Huez in Zwift. They've built a replica of it. You can't start right from the bottom. Luckily, you bike about 10 minutes, pretty much downhill, to get to the base of Alp d'Huez, and then you can start climbing it from there. I've climbed it 2 times before, once just to do it, and I didn't go all that hard. And then another time, triathlon Taryn did it, and then I was trying to beat him, and I just inched him out at the very top, I think. And what I did is I tracked his time and then specifically stayed right ahead of him. That way I didn't cook myself, and that was quite an accomplishment. I forgot what my time was on it. And then I decided to do it again yesterday, and I think maybe the reason why is I finally achieved level 50 in Zwift, and there's nothing left to do after that. There's oddly just a jersey for getting level 50, and on the way up to level 50, there's like disc wheel sets and cool shoes and gloves and helmets, aero helmets, and things like that. Well, I guess maybe the wheel set you buy along the way. But you would think there would be something a little bit more interesting. But I guess that's why they have the drop shop, where you can just go in and buy stuff. So, with all the currency that you pile up on your way up to level 50, you end up with enough money to buy. I've got like 4 different tri bikes in there. Like a Cervelo P5X, which is supposedly the fastest. My favorite actually is the Cube brand tri bike. I think that one looks absolutely the coolest, along with the felt. I think that and the felt look the best. And they're all so fast that they're within seconds of each other, I think, over a long distance. And then, what was the other one? And then, turns out, wearing a helmet versus not wearing a helmet makes very little difference in Zwift, just a tiny little bit. But anyway, I was, I guess, feeling like, well, I guess I'll go climb Zwift, Alp Dâ Zwift now, Alp Dâ Zwift. And it does really match my theory on getting better, which is find a hill that's so big that it's unconquerable, and you just have to give up to climb it, right? You just have to slow down and pace yourself. And that is the right amount of effort and resistance and turnover to improve you greatly. This whole thing with climbing up Mount Lemmon over and over and over again. I remember telling Angela Nath one time that my theory on why she became such an incredible cyclist is she rode up Mount Lemmon over and over and over again. So what makes you faster in triathlon for long distance stuff is a bunch of sweet spot for long periods of time, 20 plus minutes at a lower cadence than average, and that increases your slow twitch muscle strength, and it increases your durability. So like if you were climbing up a mountain that was so tall, let's say Mount Everest, right, where you had to trudge up it, that is what would make your legs super, super, super strong. So I was like, well, Mount Zwift is, or Alp Dâ Zwift is, I think already is a Mount Zwift, which is about a 20-minute long mountain. But if you go up that 20 minutes and you got to turn around and come back down, the rest time is so long that if you were to do repeats of that, you'd actually run out of mountain. It doesn't work out. But instead, if you climb up Alp Dâ Zwift, then you can do an interval and then, scale back a little bit and spin. You set the resistance to the trainer about 50%, and then spin a little bit, but never stop going up, and then go up, and then relax, up, relax, up, relax. By the time you do that, you've done an hour-long hill workout. And you have this nice little warm-up of 10 minutes on the way there. And it works. Works pretty great. So I did that. Back to my story. 1 hour run, which I averaged just under a 10-minute mile, just jogging easy. And then climbed Alp Zwift and then rolled back down it, which takes an hour and a half to do. And I hit 52, 53 miles per hour on the downhill. Oh, and then I love climbing it. I climbed Alp Zwift on a tri bike with a disc wheel and an aero helmet. And I know it gets funny looks from people around me that are like, what is this guy doing? But anyway, when the going gets weird, the weird GoPro, And then sitting around, looking at the weather, and then Kai had some energy. I said, hey, Kai, how about in a little bit I take you for an outdoor bike ride? And what I'm trying to do is get him riding his road bike because he can't go mountain biking right now. We can't go mountain biking right now, but you can go ride on the roads, apparently. And at first he said no, and then I bothered him about it a little bit more, and then I said, we're going to test out this Garmin radar thing, and he eventually was looking for me. He came out of nowhere and goes, so are we ready to go? And I said, yeah, let's go. Let's do it. So we finished getting my road bike together. I have a nice titanium True North brand road bike. It's really kitted out with all kinds of cool, chain rings. It's got rotor chain rings and Campanello everything on it. It's really cool. And so we put the Garmin radar on the back of that. Varia is the name of it, Garmin Varia radar. And we went for a ride and did 2 hours, a mix of a little bit of in the neighborhood and then a ton out on open roads with very little traffic. And that's what the Garmin is really good at, is picking up the occasional car coming up behind you to give you warning. And I think next podcast I'm gonna do a tech show and talk about the latest tech I've been using and how it's been working. I got a blinky light that works really good, and the Garmin Varia. Now that I've finally ridden with it and seen what it does, and I rode with it not only using a bike computer, but also it alerts you on your watch, which vibrates your wrist, which is a nice little bonus that it's doing that. And it had some nuances to it that made I was surprised at how well it worked. It was amazing. And then there was also a surprise on a couple of things. Was it a couple or at least one? One thing at least that was odd that I'm gonna have to look into to see if I can get it to not do that. And yeah, it was super cool. And then I turned around the next morning, which is this morning, I think, and went running again and ran faster today than I did yesterday. Did another 6.2 miles and did it 15 seconds per mile faster, I think, and did it with more elevation gain. And that's really cool. And see, I think I did Kai and I's bike ride was 2 hours. The Zwift was an hour and a half. And then my run was an hour. So that's four and a half hours of training yesterday. And then to turn around today and then run again and run even faster than yesterday, it really shows success in a training method, which I will describe as train just enough today so that you can train even more and harder tomorrow. You always hold back. You always look at what did you do yesterday and what are you going to do tomorrow? And then that's how hard you train today. And Kai destroyed me on the bike ride on the way home the last 20 minutes or so because he wanted to and he could. But I was kind of looking at, I want to keep training tomorrow and I don't want to blow myself out. And he would have beaten me anyway, probably. And so I held back a little bit. And then what's nice is then today I could actually train a little bit more. And then also the upside of being able to train when you want, when you feel like it. So many of us that have day jobs and you can't just train whenever. We have to train whether we like to or not. And lately, because of all this quarantine stuff, I'm able to train. I get up early and run. I always feel like that. A couple cups of coffee. I feel good. Feel like running, rested. And then the bike ride, I do whenever I feel like it. After I finish running, I take my time and then go and get my stuff together, and eventually around noon, I feel like riding the bike again. And because I feel like it and I'm well rested and I've got the energy to do it right then, it turns out to be a pretty good bike ride. And then the next day, feel like doing it again and again and again. And it's that repetition. So when you wonder why pros and the unemployed or the independently wealthy are so much faster than everybody else, it's a lot of it is they've managed to create a schedule without quarantine where they can train, where everything in their life enhances the training, and the training is done when it feels good, and they start when they feel good. They're never in a rush trying to get started, and then they're never training while tired. You train when you feel like you got the energy to do whatever that workout is that you want to do. And I was surprised myself when I went running this morning. I was faster than yesterday after doing 4.5 hours yesterday on legs, to turn around and then run even faster today. But this felt like the same effort. And what's happening with that is coming off of being injured and not being anywhere near as injured as I was before. I think I might be over it. My best running speed is definitely not a 10-minute mile. And the more I run, it improves my running form. And this is for everybody in general. The more you run to a point, it improves your running form, and then you get more efficient and you get smoother, just like biking and swimming. So much of it, especially running, is technique dependent. I guess swimming's even more, but running's technique dependent to not get injured. But the more you do it, your technique gets smoother, and then you get faster and faster and faster. So then you get closer and closer to your natural potential. And my natural potential, cruising along, if I've been running a lot, is more like a low 8-minute mile. I'm definitely not a running freak. I'm not like a 6-minute mile natural runner or anything like that. So it's like a low 8, I think, is the fastest I run if I've been running a lot. And I've got lots of mileage, and I've got all the kinks worked out. Yeah, so I think next episode we'll do a little bit of tech. We could do a tech show, and also how I worked my way up to level 50 on Zwift. There's how to get there the fastest, and then also the battle for Mount Lemmon, the calm, has heated up. By the time you listen to this, there'll be more drama with this. But Sam Long is a really, really excellent cyclist triathlete. He's very strong on the bike, and he won. Did he win the full Ironman Chattanooga and then the half, or both? I don't know, but I think he's won a full Ironman outright, and his nickname is the big unit. And I think he's really tall. He might be 6'3", 6'4", like me. And then he's young. He's like 23 years old. He outdid the calm against Lionel just a few days ago. And what was scary was he almost took the calm away from Lionel. He missed it by 30 seconds. After biking like 100 miles, or I don't remember what it was. It was something insane. It was at the end of a long bike ride. Then he went and climbed it, and then missed it by like 30 seconds. After all that, like a huge bike ride. And in an interview, he said, is a Slow Twitch interview, he said that he did it one time, and he was like, okay, came close. Then he did it another time with a friend, and they were riding together, so they're drafting off of each other, which kind of helps your speed a little bit. And I don't know if they're drafting off each other on purpose. I just assumed that, because with a pro cyclist, he was going up it. And then, so then he knew he could definitely do it. And then the next time he did it, he went all out, wore all the aero kit and exactly the right bike and all that stuff. And then he beat Lionel Sanders' time, I think by 30 seconds. So Lionel's response was, that's pretty impressive. I may let it stand for another week. Which just goes to show you there's a whole lot left on that calm. And it just shows you the pits that our society has spiraled down to, with nothing else to do, with no racing. And oh yeah, there was another Zwift race, and then Lionel's computer crapped out on him right in the middle of it, and he wasn't able to finish racing. He was racing it off of an iPad, and his iPad said storage. He had a screenshot of it. which I guess nowadays you have to do, right, to prove that you didn't quit because you weren't doing good, and said iPad storage is full, free up storage to continue operating or something like that. And that was a error message that popped up and froze his Zwift game right in the middle of a Zwift race. But anyway, yeah, that is it for this episode. I'm really excited to get another show out. And don't forget that you can hit me up for coaching at texafornia@gmail.com, texafornia@gmail.com. If you're interested in upping your game during this time, getting started, now that you've got some free time, getting some stuff straightened out, get your training life together, and start improving yourself in a way where you look at getting better every day while looking at yesterday and to improve upon tomorrow, and races coming up in the future. I know some friends of mine and I were talking about doing Ironman Sweden, and then also Ironman Finland. Looks beautiful, absolutely beautiful. And I used to be sponsored with Suunto, which is based out of Finland. And that would be really, really cool to go up there. So yeah, I've got races in the future that I'm planning on, and you should too. This will all be over pretty soon, and we'll be able to move on. Okay, that's it. Everybody stay safe out there. Work the uphills, cruise the downhills, and keep the rubber side down. Out.